Okay, so in the spirit of trying to document my successes and failures, today I'm just going to show you something about the way I apply the color over the top of the base coat in my Redneck Cerakoting. The reason I just pass on a few of the little things that I've learned, good or bad, and some of the methods that I use, because the difference many times between doing a thing and screwing it up is kind of like riding a bike. First time you ride a bike, you screw it up. You tend to, to learn to ride a bike, you got to fall down. So, I wanted to show you some of the things that I've done, because I've had to strip off my stocks a couple of times for busyness, for various mistakes. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you where I'm at today. I took my Cerakote and I put it in these jugs that are big enough to get my hand inside of. Alright? I've got a green, a sand, and a green. I've got a brown. An alternate way to do this is with a small container like this. And in fact, today I'm going to start with the brown, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to take this little rough surface and I'm going to dip it in this container just to show you that this is a way to do it. You can do it in small containers like this. I'm doing this one because this is a color that came in a little, I don't know, some kind of a try it out pack. And this works okay, but the pitfalls are that it's harder to get your hand in and out and get the excess squeezed out of the sponge and get to your working surface, to get to your working sponge without dripping. Because the trick is, you want to be able to do this without drips. So, you want to get this cleaned down enough to where you can lay it on. I've got a couple of chunks in here that they just come off, and then you... So I'm starting with a color called Patriot Brown, which is immaterial. That's not a part of that's not a function of the thing at all as far as what color I'm doing. I'm not trying to show you how to do this correctly or good, or because I'm an artist and I've got incredible techniques to share. What I'm more about is the mechanics of a thing. So I've got the Patriot Brown is now on here, and there were some chunks which indicates that the bottle that the Patriot Brown is stored in must have hardened up around the lid, and I didn't strain it, and I forgot to check it. So now I've got some daubs of Patriot Brown on here, and I'm going to go to the gun stock, which is still in my holding fixture. And I do the same thing here. I'm still using this same sponge. Now, at no point here am I trying to convince anyone that this is the correct way to do this. I'm a guy who goes out and does stuff. That's all I'm saying. I didn't want to pay $200 or $300 plus the drive time in this case. And because there are some truly talented Cerakoters around here, and right now I'm up in, I'm about, not up in, over from, I'm a few miles from, 30 miles from Portland, Oregon area. There are some good Cerakoters in the Portland, Oregon area, people that I would trust to do this job. The problem is, it's an hour one way for me to get there, and not only is it expensive once I'm there, but it's expensive, getting there is one thing, but then they charge for a good quality job. So, I wanted to do some of this myself. I wanted to learn how to do it and get halfway adept at it. And I wanted to share a few of the things that I've found. These bottles, and I have similar, I bought square gallon bottles, full milk jar sized gallon bottles, and these little 2-quart bottles, all with airtight lids, because I wanted to be able to save the Cerakote for a long time. I know that this is going to step on certain people's toes, but I started this project pre-COVID, which means right now, this is early in the new year of 2022. I bought this Cerakote back in, wow, 3 years ago? This Cerakote is 3 years old. So, because of that, some of the storage, now I've got ways that I've stored it for that amount of time. This little bottle had never been opened, and because of that I didn't think it had any flakes in it. Evidently it had, because I just got some in the paint. So now I squeeze this thing out. I'm going through technique here, so none of this really matters. Now I'm going to go to a green, and this is another reason I wanted to show this. I'm using a black nitrile glove. This is the 4th generation of gloves, and it's been the best one so far. This one is nitrile, black nitrile, and when I put it in, what I'm doing here is stirring up the sediments and stuff. I shook this pretty good, but this stuff settles out really quick. And you'll notice that even though I had brown on my gloves, I just stuck it in there. The difference, the dilution of that little bit of brown, I don't think makes any difference. It doesn't to me. So now I can take this sponge again and drop it right in there while I go get a gun stock part here. And I can come back and I can start putting this green on. And again, the wide mouth jar, the reason that I'm showing you this is to show you the actual moves, the actual techniques. And I've tried many different blue gloves, pink gloves. I got some blue ones laying right there. And when you do what I'm doing, which is put them right into the solvent, or in this case right into the paint. Later I'm going to be dipping my hands right into the solvent, which is acetone for this. And the gloves tend to go sideways on you. So I want the wide mouth jar so I can go in there and stir, so that I can get my mixture right, so that I can work my sponge without making a big, because I'm doing this right in my shop. I don't have, it's barely fuming because it's kind of not cold in here, but it's not hot. So I'm getting very little fuming going on. The smell of this particular brand, this particular mix isn't even bothering me. So it's no different than painting a little bit of Krylon or something. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be, or that I shouldn't be, and that you shouldn't be masked right up to the hilt. You know, maybe you should put a respirator. When I'm spraying this stuff, I put a respirator on, alright? I have all that. But for doing what I'm doing right now, which is just daubing some color on here, I'm not that hot about getting all respiratory. And that's why this is called Redneck Cerakoting, because I want to show you guys ways to do it at home that make it fun and cheap, as opposed to, you know, you want a good job? Go to an approved Cerakoter. But here's the thing, I got the big mouth jar here so that I can reach in with my black glove. I can take the sponge that I've chosen, I can get rid of all the excess, wipe it all off, get out here and go right to work. Okay, yeah, I'm going to have to make him wait on that. So, I will call him back. Sorry to make this, but I've got Cerakote all over me, so I can't really do anything about the noise. You're just going to have to live with it. Now, as you watch, another reason that I think this, like I said, it's not that I'm teaching, but I want you to be learning. So if you can watch this and see things that you would do differently, see things that you don't like about the way we're doing it, then by all means, I've done my job. We've come up with something interesting, and you've got something to learn. Let me just put it this way. I can learn just as much from people about how not to do something as I can about how to do something. It's nice to watch a tutorial. For instance, there's a YouTube video that's been kicking around for, oh man, 10 years now, about the junkyard paint job that's done by some pros. And it's a gorgeous thing. It's a beautiful thing. I showed it to my kid a while back who's 13, and he's been doing a bunch of his airsoft and his 22, and he's been into doing this same thing I'm doing, painting away merrily. He watched that and he's like, oh wow, that's awesome, but I could never do that. The reason I'm doing this little series right here is I want to avoid that I could never do that syndrome. This that I'm doing right here is specifically a little fill-in video to show you guys that you can do this. The next thing I'm going to do here is go to the light color, which is called sand color. Before I call that fella back, I'm not going to waste your time forever, but I take that same rag and I drop it in here, and again, in the glass jar, I'm able to squeeze it all out. And yes, this did put a little darker pigment into this sand color. Over time, as the quantities get smaller, I'll have to be more careful, but right now I'm talking big quantities and small, very small, what would you call that? Not pollutants, contaminants, but just dilutants. I'm putting a little dilutant. I have to be careful here because I'm looking at the monitor instead of at my work. As I'm talking about my dilutants. Obviously I'm diluting this by a shade of color somehow, but not as much as one might first think. So this is a method that you can just in the kitchen, on the living room table. It's quick, it's easy. I sprayed these in my little Redneck Cerakoting booth, and I put a black base on them, and now I go back, go after it with this to give it some character. And if that's a character that you could find attractive, I just realized I got one extra blotch on here. That's one of the things I've learned. I got talking and I got busy and I've got an extra blotch, so that means I'm going to have to highlight an area or darken an area to make it work. So these aesthetic things are things that you're going to have to play with as you go, people. Everybody's got a different sense of the aesthetic, but this is a way for you to do. There I just put on 3 colors from dark to light. I did something that you may or may not find attractive. I'm going to put some bright green flecks on here after the fact, because after I get off this video, this is a bright, I call it dragon green. It's called glacier green. But it's bright, bright, bright green. So I'm going to put a little, and I do that with a I use these little things here for mixing, and I use these little pipettes to take out a little bit. So I'm going to put so little of this bright green on that I'm actually going to pipette it out into this and just touch, 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 maybe 5 or 6 different spots like a dragon spit at it. But I'm doing this not to talk about my inept, childish painting techniques, but to show you how I'm doing it in the interest of, hey, go out and do this, people. You can do it better than this. I'm no artist. I'm no pro. You can beat me at my game, but whatever you do, do it. My channel, my focus, my whole thing is about do it. Get out and get her done. Enjoy the day.